Hi everyone, I'm 22, and today I'm sharing a personal story about how my family, particularly my parents, made me feel completely overlooked while showering my younger brother with attention. For years I tried to keep the peace, but things recently reached a breaking point. I'm sharing this because I'm still processing everything and figuring out my next steps. First, a little background. I live at home with my parents and my brother, Liam, who just turned 16. Our family dynamics have always been a bit complex. My parents clearly have a favorite, a pattern that's been evident for years, though I always tried to overlook or justify it. Liam seems to get away with everything. Meanwhile, I'm expected to be flawless, and not just that, but also responsible for cleaning up his messes and ensuring the household runs smoothly. Liam isn't a bad kid. He's generally quiet and has a certain charm, but he's never truly had to earn anything. My parents simply hand him whatever he desires, claiming it's because he's the youngest or works harder in school. Despite me studying twice as much and holding a part-time job to cover my own costs, things escalated significantly 2 weeks ago. It began when Liam received a brand new, top-of-the-line smartphone, one that costs more than my weekly earnings. When I asked my mom how he got it, she just smiled and said he deserved it for his academic performance. I tried to explain that I was also balancing work and classes while maintaining good grades, but my efforts seemed to be dismissed. 2. Make matters worse, they then planned a huge party for Liam at our house, inviting all his friends. My parents spent days decorating and buying an abundance of snacks and drinks, all for him. I wasn't even invited. I asked if I could help or participate. Mom flatly replied, "This is his night. You have plenty to do. Focus on your responsibilities." I ended up handling all the cleaning both before and after the party, along with extra chores no one else bothered with. My brother vanished to enjoy his celebration, while my parents beamed at him like proud peacocks, lavishing him with praise and attention. I, meanwhile, was on my hands and knees, scrubbing floors to ensure everything was spotless. One evening, after completing what felt like an endless list of tasks, Dad called me into the living room for a discussion, informed me that the additional work was meant to instill discipline, and that I needed to stop complaining and step up as a responsible adult. He then compared me to Liam, stating, "Your brother is receiving rewards because he's doing what's expected of him. You need to understand that hard work sometimes requires sacrifice." I felt utterly defeated. It wasn't merely about the chores. It was about their complete lack of appreciation for everything I already did. Nothing I accomplished ever seemed to be enough. I remained silent, knowing that arguing would only worsen the situation. That night, after everyone was asleep, I quietly packed a small bag. Without a word, I left. I stayed with a friend nearby, desperate for space from the relentless unfairness and the pervasive feeling that my family only valued me for my utility. For nearly a week, I ignored my parents' calls and texts. Then, unexpectedly, my mom called, sobbing. She pleaded with me to return, claiming she hadn't realized the depth of my pain caused by her words and actions, believing she was helping, when she was only making things worse. After hanging up with Mom, I sat on my friend's couch, phone still warm, my mind reeling. Her voice was desperate, even broken, and I could hear Dad crying in the background, something I'd never witnessed before. It was disorienting because the parents I knew, the ones who had always dismissed my feelings, were suddenly pleading with me. I spent the night replaying everything in my head. Part of me felt guilty for leaving so abruptly. Was I acting childish? They had apologized, after all. But a louder part of me was consumed by anger and hurt. This wasn't a single error on their part. It was years of blatant favoritism, dismissiveness, and unfairness that had pushed me to my limit. The next day, I decided to respond to their texts, not to return home, but simply to acknowledge their messages. My phone buzzed relentlessly with apologies and promises of change. "We miss you. Please come back. Let's talk and fix this." It all felt overwhelming, almost performative, yet a part of me still wanted to believe them. Eventually, I agreed to meet them, not at home, but at a quiet local cafe. I wanted a neutral space where I could maintain control, preventing their usual power dynamics from taking over. When I arrived, Mom was already there, looking weary. But her eyes held the same calculating glint I'd known my entire life. Dad joined us a few minutes later, and they both greeted me as if we were in a family drama. With many, "We're so sorry and we didn't mean to hurt you." But I remained cautious. Memories of the party, the chores, and the unfair comparisons flooded my mind. I began by articulating my feelings precisely. I spoke slowly, carefully choosing my words to avoid interruption. I explained how their actions made me feel like nothing more than an unpaid housekeeper, how their praise for Liam rendered me invisible, and how Dad's discipline talks were simply another form of dismissal. Mom's face tensed, and Dad's gaze briefly shifted away. Then Mom said something that struck me harder than I anticipated. "You don't understand," she said softly. "Liam needs structure. He's so different from you. You're responsible, yes, but you need to learn that life isn't always fair. This isn't about favoritism. It's about preparing him for the real world." I suppressed the urge to laugh. "So treating me like a servant and disregarding my hard work is your idea of preparing me for the real world?" Dad interjected. "It's about discipline, not favoritism. We push you because we know you can handle it. Liam needs more guidance." In that moment, I realized their apologies weren't born from hurting me. They were sorry because I had left, causing them embarrassment. They were sorry because the focus had shifted, making them uncomfortable. I stood up and told them I needed time, that I couldn't simply forget everything and revert to pretending things were fine. The following days were among the most challenging I'd ever experienced. While my friend's home offered a safe space for reflection, the lingering tension with my family constantly weighed on me. I tried to focus on schoolwork, but every time my phone lit up with a text from Mom or Dad, my stomach churned. One evening, I received a message from Liam. It was brief, almost too simple. "Hey, can we talk?" I wasn't sure if I was ready. I hesitated, wondering if I wanted to hear from the brother who received a new phone and a party, while I was burdened with lectures and extra chores. But after a moment, I replied, and we arranged to meet at a local park. When I saw him, he appeared nervous, even awkward. The confident, indulged kid I knew seemed diminished somehow. "I didn't realize how bad things were," Liam said after a long pause. "I mean, I knew Mom and Dad treated you differently, but I didn't think it was this bad." I wanted to believe him, but years of feeling invisible had taught me caution. "So what now?" I asked. "I don't know," he admitted. "I wish I could fix it, but I don't think they'll listen to me. Maybe you should just come home. Things won't be perfect, but maybe we can figure it out." That night, lying awake, I realized Liam was trapped in his own way, a different kind of confinement. He was a victim of their favoritism, just as I was a victim of their neglect. The only difference was his unawareness of the true depth of it. A few days later, Mom called again. This time her tone was less desperate, more resolute. "We want to make changes," she stated. "You should come home. We'll establish fair rules. Liam will respect your space, and we'll try to balance things better." I told her I appreciated the offer, but I needed proof, not just promises. Couldn't simply return to that environment and pretend everything was resolved. Her voice hardened slightly. "We've done what's best for this family. If you can't see that, perhaps you're the one who's mistaken." That comment stung more than any argument. I realized that no matter what I said or did, they had already determined my place in their world, and it was far from equal. After weeks of back and forth, I understood that waiting for my parents to change was futile. It's like waiting for a storm to pass while standing directly in its path. Their apologies and promises were mere words, designed to manipulate me back into their familiar patterns. I needed to seize control of the situation myself, but in a way they wouldn't anticipate. I began by discreetly collecting information. Living temporarily with my friend gave me more freedom and less pressure. I started observing my parents' routines, their subtle habits, and their vulnerabilities. It was surprising how much revealing conversation they left within earshot. Mom had a knack for boasting about their social circle and how they manipulated others to get their way. Dad was more careful, but often left important documents on the kitchen table when he thought he was alone. The first thing I uncovered was their absurd obsession with appearances. My parents spent hundreds, sometimes thousands, maintaining their image within the neighborhood and their small social circle. They boasted about donations they never made and connections they falsely claimed. It was a world built on illusion, and I was beginning to understand their tactics. Next, I focused on their finances. I knew Liam's new phone wasn't a casual gift. Mom and Dad had clearly pulled some strings, likely borrowing money or using credit cards they wanted to keep hidden from me. I found receipts and statements and the trash, concrete proof of their extravagant spending on Liam while being incredibly frugal with me. I also discovered that my parents had been complaining about me to relatives and family friends behind my back, portraying me as ungrateful, lazy, and difficult. Their stories distorted every detail, casting me as the villain in every discussion. It was infuriating, yet also illuminating. I realized that any attempt to reason with them would be pointless, as they had already constructed their own narrative. Armed with this knowledge, I devised a plan. It wasn't about burning bridges or creating a spectacle. I sought quiet, undeniable retribution, the kind that left no room for excuses or denials. I began with small, strategic actions. First, I applied for a scholarship I'd long considered unattainable due to its competitiveness, requiring a personal statement and references. I poured my heart into the application, detailing my struggles balancing school, work, and family responsibilities. I held nothing back. I submitted the application and waited. Meanwhile, I started making subtle changes at home, things I knew would discomfit my parents. I informed Mom I was applying for internships, and though she scoffed, I was serious. Meticulously cleaned my own room but ceased doing the extra household chores, leaving them for Mom and Dad to manage. The house quickly began to show signs of disarray, but I wasn't the one inconvenienced. They detested it. When Liam had another party planned, this time without my knowledge, I told my parents I'd be working late and unavailable. I used that time to print copies of the crucial documents I'd discreetly gathered, bank statements revealing their reckless spending, copies of the unpleasant messages Mom had sent to relatives, and evidence of how they had misrepresented me to everyone. I reached out to a family friend who was a lawyer. I carefully explained my situation, stressing that I wasn't seeking lawsuits or drama, but simply wanted to understand my rights as an adult living under their roof. The lawyer provided guidance on navigating family conflict, particularly in cases involving abuse or neglect. Then came the pivotal moment. My parents sent a message inviting me to a family meeting at home, promising a fresh start. I was skeptical, but agreed to attend, intending to keep my intentions private. Upon my arrival, the atmosphere was tense, yet outwardly composed. Mom wore her usual perfect host smile, and Dad, though visibly uncomfortable, tried to appear calm. Liam was there, feigning ignorance of the brewing storm. They began with their customary apologies, but I cut them short. I pulled out my folder and placed it on the table. "I've done some thinking," I stated quietly but firmly. "I've remained silent for too long while you've treated me as if I'm invisible. But I've also uncovered a few things about this family. Things you never expected me to find." I handed Mom a copy of the bank statements. "This shows your spending on Liam's phone and parties. You claim you're rewarding him, but it's clear who truly benefits financially." Dad's face flushed, and Mom's smile wavered. "I also have copies of the messages you sent to relatives, twisting the narrative to make me seem like the problem." "Want you to explain that?" Mom opened her mouth, but I held up my hand. "This isn't about attacking you," I said. "It's about finally being heard. I'm done being the scapegoat. If you want me back in this family, you need to start by acknowledging your actions and making genuine changes, not empty promises." The room fell silent for a moment. Liam looked as if he wished to vanish. Then, in a rare moment of vulnerability, Dad said, "You don't understand the pressure we're under. We did what we thought was best." "I do understand," I replied. "It's not good enough." After that meeting, things didn't miraculously improve, but the power dynamic undeniably shifted. For the first time, I had tangible evidence to support my feelings. I was no longer just the dutiful daughter who did everything right and received nothing in return. I was someone who could stand up and hold them accountable. They attempted to dismiss the documents as misunderstandings or taken out of context. But I had done my research. Every paper, every message was meticulously organized and easily verifiable. Liam stopped having his friends over as frequently. I'm unsure if it was due to my parents monitoring him more closely or if he simply wanted to avoid the tension. Regardless, the parties ceased, and so did the extravagant gifts. I shifted my focus more onto myself, my studies, my work, and my future. I even applied for and secured a summer internship, which would create some much-needed distance between me and my family. But here's the twist. Just when I thought I was making progress, my parents escalated their behavior. They began completely excluding me from family events, acting as if I didn't exist whenever relatives were present. At one point, I discovered they told family friends I had left because I was selfish and ungrateful. That stung more than anything. They weren't just ignoring me. They were actively rewriting our story to portray themselves as the victims. It became clear then that this family wasn't going to change independently. If I wanted respect, I had to construct a life where I wasn't dependent on them. Moving out proved far more challenging than I'd anticipated. I kept telling myself it was merely a practical step, packing a few belongings, finding a new place. But it was more than that. It was years of memories, both significant and minor, interwoven with disappointment, hurt, and silent moments of feeling invisible, all condensed into a handful of boxes. Each item I folded and packed wasn't just stuff. It was a fragment of my past life that I was finally releasing. The night before I left, I stood in my old room for what felt like hours. The walls, the furniture, the scattered books, all familiar yet somehow alien. This was the place where I had grown up striving to meet impossible expectations, where my successes were overlooked and my failures amplified. I ran my hand over the desk where I'd spent late nights doing homework. The shelves held trophies Liam never acknowledged, but which Mom and Dad proudly showcased for him. The silence in the room was oppressive, but I knew remaining there meant staying trapped in a narrative that wasn't my own. On the morning I left, I didn't utter a word to anyone, no dramatic goodbyes or emotional pleas. I was exhausted by their patterns, their broken promises, and the tears that felt more manipulative than genuinely remorseful. I slipped my key into my bag, slung it over my shoulder, and quietly closed the door behind me. With each step away from the house, I felt a blend of fear and profound fear of the unknown, and relief from the suffocating weight I had carried for so long. The initial weeks in my new apartment were a peculiar mix of liberation and solitude. For the first time in years, I had a space that was truly my own. No one was there to assign me extra chores, compare me to Liam's accomplishments, or question my discipline. I could eat when I pleased, study as I wished, and rest when necessary, all without guilt. Yet the silence was occasionally deafening. There were moments when the walls felt too empty, and I longed for the family I wished I had, not the one I'd left behind. It was during this period that the true repercussions became apparent. My parents never again reached out with genuine apologies or attempts to understand me. Instead, the rumors began. I heard through a mutual acquaintance how they were telling everyone I had abandoned the family, portraying me as selfish and making poor choices. They cast themselves as the victims in a narrative where I was the ungrateful daughter who could never be pleased. It was agonizing to realize my own parents were rewriting our history, painting me as the villain to protect their image. Liam also withdrew from me. Messages went unanswered, calls ignored. It became clear he had fully embraced our parents' version of events. The brother I once thought might understand or feel conflicted had joined the chorus condemning me. For the first time, the isolation I had felt for so long became complete. But through all that silence and exclusion, I never regretted my decision. Leaving was the most courageous act of self-respect I could have made. Months passed. I immersed myself in my studies and my work. The scholarship I had diligently pursued finally materialized, alleviating the financial strain I had feared. The internship I secured opened doors I had never dared to imagine. Eventually, it evolved into a part-time job, granting me an unprecedented sense of independence. I forged new friendships, connecting with people who saw me not as a dutiful daughter or a character in a family drama, but as someone deserving of friendship and respect. Gradually, I constructed a life that was truly my own. I never reconnected with my parents or Liam. After one particularly cruel voicemail, her mom accused me of ruining the family's reputation and being selfish. I blocked their numbers. It pained me more than I wanted to admit, yet it was also incredibly freeing. No more enduring their lies or their judgment. No more being caught in the crossfire of their need for control. Now I live independently, surrounded by people who value me for who I am. My parents and Liam have become a painful, yet closed chapter. They remain the antagonists in my story, not out of a desire for revenge or lingering bitterness, but because their actions revealed their true nature. Through all of this, I've learned that family isn't solely defined by blood or shared history. It's about respect, kindness, and unwavering support. When those elements are absent, sometimes the bravest and healthiest action you can take is to walk away. Protect your peace. Protect your heart. So, this is my reality today. No contact, no forgiveness, just peace. To anyone watching who might be in a similar situation, please know this: it's okay to prioritize yourself. You deserve to be seen, heard, and valued. And sometimes, self-love means stepping away from those who refuse to acknowledge your worth. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story relatable, please like and subscribe for more content like this.